Today I'm making some Windsor chair spindles. These are all made out of white oak. I've already split out the pieces I need, and I'm just going to demonstrate how I make one start to finish. Basically, I split out a 1" by 1" square. It's about 25 inches long. And then I bring it to the, while it's still green, I bring it into the shop and then let it sit around for a couple days. And then I'll start whittling it down with a draw knife. Now here all I'm doing is trying to make it as square as I can to roughly about 3/4, a little thicker than that would be good. Roughly 3/4 is about perfect. Just square and flat, and I'm eyeballing where the grain is because I want to follow the grain. That gives you the ultimate strength in these. So after I've got it pretty good and square and the grain's followed, now I just map out where I want the transitions to be. This bottom end that's closest to the camera here is going to be the tenon that goes into the seat, and then the long shaft will be what the back actually sets against and goes up into the back bow. Here that first line I'm just making down to roughly 5/8, a little less than 5/8, because I want it 1/2 inch round once I'm completely finished. After I get it roughed down there, I turn it around and start the upper portion. This I want to be 3/8 finished, so I'm going to make it about 1/2 inch, a little thinner than 1/2 inch here with the draw knife, and then it'll go in the kiln and dry out. And I'll bring it back to the shaving horse and spoke shave it down to the final size. There I'm just checking it to make sure it's a 1/2 inch and it fit in my 1/2 inch gauge and had a little bit of play, so I'm good. I'm just checking from the side to see how close I'm getting to square, flipping it around and trying to just eyeball that nice straight shaft all the way down the end. Again, I'm checking it with my little gauge. Fits good just about everywhere. I'm good to go. Now I can start making an octagon. I'm doing this real gently because I don't want to tear it out or lift any grain, and any grain that might have gotten backwards on me. If I pull too hard, I can pull it right off and ruin the spindle. So I'm just taking light cuts and making an octagon. And I'm turning around. This is the tenon side. Doing the same thing, making an octagon. Now that piece is ready to go into the kiln and dry down. See the strength here. This is green. Of course, it's going to have some play. But now we got the thing dried down. This one's been dried in the kiln for 4 days probably. You can hear it by the tingy sound that it produces over a thud that a green piece would have. And I always start my spoke shaving on the thick side, or the side that goes into the seat, the actual tenon. And here I'm just trying to round over that octagon, making, first I've got 8 sides, then I want to make 16 sides, and then 32, and basically you'll end up with a round. And when you're doing the making the octagon with the draw knife, the better you make those all even, the better chance you'll have at making this completely round and more of a true round. Here I'm just spoke shaving it down, checking it with my little gauge to see if I'm getting close to my 1/2 inch mark down at the bottom. There's several ways to do this. You can do it like I'm showing here, where you can just use a spoke shave and do it all the way, or you can use a tenon cutter on a cordless drill to make your tenon and then shave down to that line. I've done that several times. It works great. It just, you have to be very careful that you don't get off center of when you're using that. It's about as fast to do it with the spoke shave as it is with that, because by the time you find that thing and get it, you've got more chance of messing it up if you use the drill. There, I've just finally got the tenon to fit real snug into that jig, that little gauge. I'm just finalizing a little bit of shaping here. Like I said, I'm trying to go from 8 sides to 16 sides, 32 sides, and then it'll eventually be round. Hear that creak that it makes? That's a tight joint, so when it goes down into a soft pine seat, that'll be a real good solid tight joint. Alright, when I flip around and do the upper portion, I usually try to start on the upper third and get that to roughly 3/8. That whole shaft needs to be, this is for a sackback chair, so it's got to pass through a arm bow, so the whole entire shaft has to be 3/8 to go through that hole. So I start on the upper portion to get my 3/8, so that kind of uses, I use that as a gauge, plus this upper portion has to be dead on when it goes into the back bow. You don't want any slop play or anything like that in that upper bow. So as soon as I get that to about the diameter I want, then I'll move down and do the bottom 2/3. A little bit more cleanup here. It's not getting there as quick as I'd like. There it is. Okay, now I can begin down on the lower part. I just start right at that bulge, where that bulge first starts, and just start shaping it down right up to the spot that I just finished at the top half. I try not to go all the way down until I get real close to the where everything's going to flow into each other. And what I mean by that is you start on the bottom side and get it shaped up to about the same thickness as what I've done on that top portion already, and then I just flow it all in together, and that makes those facets and everything just come out looking like you did it all in one knife, one spoke shave pass. That little bulge has got to have a little bit of work done to it to get it to flow in nice and even and transition nicely into that thinner 3/8 shaft of the upper spindle. I use a wooden block too that's got a 3/8 hole drilled in it, but it's been reamed out a little bit over the years to allow for a little bit of play. So I'm going to check that here, and it's a little bit bigger than 3/8, but that allows me to final shape it later. Now what I'm doing there is checking to see where my spindle comes to. And I've got a spot on my shaving horse that I know right where I want it to go. And this spindle is just a little bit long, so that means that the bulge goes up the spindle just a little bit too far. So I'm going to try to whittle it back down, just to whittle a little bit of that meat off of it to try to get it even with the edge of my shaving horse there. You can see I'm just working right there on that bulge where it transitions from the thin shaft to the thicker shaft. I'm just trying to slope that in a little bit faster and a little bit closer to the seat edge, or the tenon that goes into the seat. Now I'll check it again to see how far I got. Perfect. I'm right on the target I needed to be. Now I've got some little fuzzies left over from doing that last little bit of spoke shaving, so I'm going to try to smooth that out with the... What I like about these spoke shaves that I've got is they're adjustable, so I can put one side higher and one side lower, which makes it easy to take off a heavy cut or a shallow cut. Right now I'm taking off the shallow cut, and it's just barely, it's like almost like a scraper. Just nice and smooth and transitions. Makes those cuts real nice. And this is my finished cut. This is the last thing I'll do to the spindle other than cut it to length and stick it in the chair. All I'm doing is taking some the shavings off the white oak and polishing it up. It acts almost like a sandpaper and makes a real nice slick finish.